Okay, so for testing MCP flexion to go against gravity, we want to have the forearm in supination. You're going to be supporting the wrist, and you're going to have them do the lumbrical motions. So MCP flexion with IP extension. So you want to demo that first to see can they go through the full range of motion. And then you're going to have them come up and hold. And then you'll test each finger individually. So for MCP flexion, you're not going to do a full test with all fingers. You would test each finger individually, stabilizing at the metacarpal and pulling the proximal phalanx. And again, because you're testing fingers, you're not going to be using a ton of resistance. For the finger manual muscle testing, you will not be responsible for pluses and minuses. They're just too small a muscle groups to really be able to have those interim plus and minus grades, so you'll only be responsible for knowing 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if they can meet max resistance, that's a 5. If she breaks with moderate resistance, that would be 4. If she breaks immediately upon resistance, that would be a 3. A 2 would be that she can only go through partial range of motion. So if she comes up maybe only halfway and that's all she can do, that would be considered 2. And then a 1 would be she cannot move the MCP, but you can palpate the muscle and feel that there's a contraction occurring. And 0 would be no movement at all. Okay, so that's MCP flexion. To do MCP extension, you're going to turn the forearm over into pronation. Have her extend the MCPs with IP flexion, and you'll be stabilizing on the metacarpal and applying your resistance into flexion on that proximal phalanx. And same thing, only 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grades. Okay. For the thumb, if we're going to be testing flexion, so remember that flexion for the thumb is in the frontal plane. So testing flexion and extension. If you're going to be doing the MCP joint, have her come all the way into that range of motion. So there she automatically gets a 3. You're going to stabilize on the metacarpal, and then you're going to resist on the phalanx into extension. So I'm pulling in this direction. Again, if she can only move through partial range of motion, that becomes a 2. If you can only palpate the muscle activity, but there's no movement at all, that would be a 1. For extension, bring her out into kind of almost like the hitchhiker thumb position. And you'll stabilize again on the metacarpal. And then you're going to resist the phalanx coming into flexion. So this is testing extension of the thumb at the MCP joint. Okay. And then for the IP joint for the thumb, flexion, you would bring her all the way into flexion in this direction, stabilize at the proximal phalanx, and resist into extension. Okay. And for the thumb as well, we need to test abduction and adduction. So abduction, forearms in supination, have them bring their thumb up towards the ceiling. Yep, up towards the ceiling. Good. And remember that motion happens in the sagittal plane versus frontal. If we're testing, so for this one, there is a differentiation between the abductor pollicis longus and the abductor pollicis brevis, right? So do you guys remember the abductor pollicis longus attaches where? Yes, so the first metacarpal is where the longus attaches. So your resistance is going to be at the MCP joint because that tendon does not cross the MCP joint. So you'll stabilize on the wrist for this one, and you're just going to resist into adduction. So this is testing abductor pollicis longus, and then to test abductor pollicis brevis, because it attaches on the phalanx, you're going to apply your resistance on the phalanx instead. So then you're testing the longer tendon. All right. And then for adduction, you actually have them come all the way into so that's opposition. So adduction is just going to be straight down. Yep, so straight down. Good. You're going to kind of wedge your finger in between the palmar surface and the thumb, and then you're going to resist upwards to test adduction of the thumb. Okay. And then opposition is the last one. So opposition, you bring thumb to pinky, and you can instruct the patient to make an O with the fingers. For this one, I would recommend just testing both the opponent's digit de minimis and the opponent's pollicis. So you can apply your resistance on the thenar and hypothenar eminence into almost like you're unpeeling that opposition. So hold the fingers there. Good. If she can hold it, she gets a 3 if she can complete that range. And then you apply resistance from there. And if you can break her, she would get a 4. If she holds strong, that's a 5. A 2 would just be partial range, so she'd be unable to contact the fingers together. Okay, so those are the major finger MMTs.